I said where you're from, so I'm going to give the microphone to you and go ahead with your program.
Thank you. Like Chief Kruger just said,
Just make sure you hold that mic up to your mouth because I want to hear.
like Chief Kruger just said, my name is Edward Cho, and I live in Japan, New York, and I'm a rising sophomore. And first off, before I begin, I would like to thank Westwood Police Chief Frank Regino, Saddlebrook Chief Robert Cooler, and Englewood Cliff Chief Michael Siafi. I would also like to thank the board members of this organization. Everything is possible. This opportunity is possible because of you guys. So thank you. And finally, I would like to thank the parents for coming here, taking the time out of your day to come, and I would just like to thank all of you. So my topic is about law, and I'll be going over what law actually is and why law is necessary for society. And I'm also going to be going over crime prevention tactics. So what is law? Law is a set of rules that people in society are supposed to follow. And if any devious behavior is to be punished accordingly, depending on the severity. But in truth, law is much more than just a set of rules. The law dictates how we think and how we act. So intrinsically, like us people, we want to satiate our desires, and we go after our inclinations. But the law, in a way, kind of controls this behavior, and it brings about social order and harmony. And so, obviously, like the law is necessary for society because without law, people would be doing whatever they want, and there would just be pandemonium. People would be just doing whatever they want. So there are many functions of the law. So I'll be going over the law, and naturally the law is very diverse and has many different functions. But I'll be going over some of the functions. So in a society, people are bound to have different values and different behaviors and different beliefs. So to control these behaviors, there is something called social controls. And social controls are put into place. And so there's two types. There's formal social control and informal social control. So formal social control has legal sanctions, and meanwhile informal has no legal sanctions to kind of regulate the people's behavior. So an example of formal social control would be if a person commits burglary or commits an act of crime, that person would get jail time or a fine, and they would be punished by the law. But an informal social control would have no legal sanction. So an example of that would be if a child steals candy from a jar, a teacher or a guardian might reprimand them for taking the candy, but there's going to be no jail time, no fine. So there's no legal sanction in informal social controls. So another function of law is to settle disputes. So naturally in society, disputes are bound to happen, and like there's going to be disagreements no matter what. So resolutions are made by in the legal court system, either in the state or federal court system. So resolution is said favoring either party. So that's basically one function, and another function is to instill moral order. So when we think of crimes like murder and sexual assault, we kind of have this image, thinking like it's like a horrendous thing, and there's always this stigma to it. And that's in part because when we see the punishments of these crimes, such as the death penalty, like large fines and prison time, we get this image that these crimes are unacceptable in society, and that we shouldn't commit these crimes. But this also relates to kind of lighter crimes. If you say like speeding crimes, if you speed, it isn't necessarily morally wrong, but there still is some stigma to it, saying that you shouldn't do it and you should avoid speeding. So the law also ensures our safety. Like there's some laws like labor laws that make sure that we're in safe working conditions, and there's some laws like giving us minimum wage, and it just ensures our safety. And so there's a lot more functions of law, but for time purposes, that's all I'll be going over. But next I'll be going over crime. So a crime is an action that defies laws and is punishable depending on the severity of the crime. So, and obviously crime is like bad for society. So crime prevention tactics are put into place by people to lower the crime rate. So I'll be going over some tactics. The environmental design strategy was introduced by a criminologist, and the objective is to disincentivize crime by altering the physical design of communities in which humans reside. And so I'll be going over this more, but there's 3 key components to it. The first component is natural surveillance, and so it increases the risk of crime because but it improves the perceived risk by improving the visibility of potential offenders to the public. So an example of this would be a window overlooking a large area. So the potential offender would be scared that he would be caught by the people from the window. And so another component to this is natural access, and this is the physical guidance of people coming and going from the space to lower potential targets. So an example of this would be a sidewalk. So people are drawn to a sidewalk and they walk in a sidewalk. They don't walk out of the sidewalk, and so this kind of decreases the scattering of people and puts them in one spot. So the vulnerability of a target would be less. The person would be less susceptible to a crime. And the final component to this design strategy is a natural territorial design, and this one basically distinguishes private and public property, and this one kind of shows ownership and says like if someone intrudes into your property, it kind of shows ownership and says this is my property, like get off. So the most obvious example of this would be like a private property sign. Obviously it shows ownership and it shows that it's a private property and you shouldn't enter. So these 3 are the part of the environmental design strategy. And the second tactic I'll be going over is the situational crime prevention tactic. And this relies on the theory that every criminal will assess the situation before they actually commit the crime and outweigh the benefits and the consequences of the crime that they're about to do. So an example of this would be the automated traffic enforcement systems at stoplights. So if a person is at a red light and they go over it, they see the camera and they are disincentivized to cross the red light because they see the camera and they know they'll be caught. So this one relies on like the visuals, and this one tries to outweigh the consequences from the benefits of committing the crime. And so all of these tactics are, in an ideal situation, all of these tactics would prevent all crime, but as we know, this isn't possible. Like in society, there always has been crime, and there is crime today, and it will continue to be crime, and but we can't stop this crime, but these tactics try to mitigate all the crime that does happen. So that concludes my presentation. Any questions? Are there any questions?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say that you did a great job.
Thank you.
It looked like you memorized most of it.
Yeah. I'm gonna try.
In those tactics,
Yeah.
what is your thoughts or what is your opinion on the involvement of the general citizenry to help in that area?
So the public have they have a big so basically this theory relies on the people, and the people are the ones that essentially rat out the criminals, So if a criminal was to commit a murder like in a park, the the buildings around, they would see through the windows, and so they would see the criminal and rat the guy out for committing the crime. So the public has a very big play in this theory.
Fantastic job,
Thank
Ed.
you.
Fantastic job. And Mom Sung Hee, you should be very, very proud. And my only other question is, how come you're way down there and he's all the way up here? Why is the separation there? It was a long ride here in the car, wasn't it? Okay. Very good, Edward.
Thank you.
Amazing job. Thank you very much. Okay, our second presenter is Sally Sinwan Kim. Sally is a 10th grader from Tenafly High School. And her parents hopefully are here. Ji-hee Jung, where's Ji-hee? You here? Yes, hi Ji-hee. And father, Young-jun Kim? Father here? No, okay. Okay, Sally, it's all yours.
I would like to thank everyone who made this opportunity possible. So my presentation is on the topic of the importance of Asian Americans and other diversity in law enforcement. So America is known as a melting pot full of different cultures and religions that make our country unique. Since it has many diverse cultures, a lot of people who are not familiar with English may be hard to communicate with others who do not speak their same language. As an immigrant myself, in the first few years of living here, I always felt comforted when I saw someone who was able to communicate with me. That is why law enforcement are incorporating more diversity. They do this to build more trust between law enforcement and communities in the USA. In fact, when President Obama established a task force on the 21st century policing 2 years ago, the task force suggested that having more diversity will lead to strengthening the trust between communities and law enforcement. According to the U.S. Equal Employment and Opportunity Commission, when members of the public believe their law enforcement organizations represent them, understand them, and respond to them, and when communities perceive authorities as fair, legitimate, and accountable, it deepens trust in law enforcement, instills public confidence in government, and supports the integrity of democracy. This trust is essential to diffusing tension, to solving crimes, and to creating a system in which residents view law enforcement as fair and just. Victims and witnesses may not approach or engage with law enforcement if they do not perceive such authorities to be responsive to their experiences and concerns. This trust and the cooperation it facilitates also enables officers to more effectively and safely perform their jobs. I have been taught that communication is key to everything. Without communicating, it is easy to misinterpret ideas which may lead to not being able to solve problems, etc. If there is no diversity available in law enforcement to help communities that are bursting with different religions, cultures, and experiences, the results that we fear will come about and will not bring peace. Not only will having more diversity among law enforcement build and increase trust among communities and law enforcement, but making law enforcement are more open to reform, more willing to initiate cultural and systematic changes, and more responsive to the residents they serve. Some have pointed to increased diversity as a catalyst for reform, enabling officers and law enforcement leaders alike to become more introspective and reflective about problems in their departments. Having a more open mind can drive reform across a range of areas, including civilian oversight, community policing, and racial bias. From a federal survey of police departments in 2007, it was found that in about 400 departments, the population of police officers were considerably more white than the community they served. For example, in a town called Maple Heights in Ohio, people found that the police department has 2 black police officers out of the 53 they have, and that the fire department was 100% white. This can cause racial biases among the law enforcement and the community. An example of racism shown by lack of diversity in police departments was clearly shown in Ferguson, Missouri, when officers did not treat the black residents there well. This barrier between minorities and officers caused problems among the relationships between them, And with more diversity in departments, relationships between officers and residents can improve, and residents will be able to trust and rely on them. It may seem like the diversity in America is growing and growing every second, but despite every culture, religion, and political beliefs, etc., that have been existing in our country for hundreds of years, it seems that there are still problems regarding racism and trust between non-whites and whites in law enforcement as well as everywhere else. By including more variety among law enforcement, residents will have an easier time asking and getting help, building the trust between them and officers, not experience racism, etc. All in all, having more Asian Americans and other diversity in law enforcement is highly beneficial to all. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Well, Sally, let me tell you about diversity, and especially in law enforcement. It's a great topic because I can tell you, since my friendship and involvement with the Asian American community since 2003, I know how important it is to encourage and inspire young people like yourself and all these other young students to be involved in law enforcement. And let me tell you two of the barriers that I've seen. The first barrier, and Chief Regino could concur to this, 44 years ago, even 34 years ago, the law enforcement profession was not seen as a high-paying profession, and it wasn't. People got involved with law enforcement for a number of reasons, but most of the reasons were they were military veterans, and they served the military, and like the military, the police profession is like a quasi-military organization, so they joined the police department. Other people, like Frank's not a veteran, joined for the public service reason, meaning that they wanted to serve their community. So years ago, that barrier was big for us because it was not a high-paying job. In my days, people that were union carpenters and union electricians and professionals like accountants and lawyers and doctors making a lot more dollars than the public employee police officer. But today, it's a lot different. Today, it's a lot different. Police officers earn a lot of money, and I'm not saying join our profession for money, but it's different today. We are held to a higher degree. We are dealing with those professionals, each and every professional, very varying levels of education. We need to be diverse. Our police officers that serve our community need to be reflective of the community. So we need more Korean police officers in Palisades Park. We need more Korean police officers in Tenafly, where you live and where John lives, because like John told us just before, I don't know the breakdown, but I think it's close to 40% of the town is made up of Korean Americans. That's big. I'm not saying the police department needs to be 40% Koreans, but there should be more than maybe one or two. Here's another barrier. We can't hire you to be a police officer if you're not engaging and willing to be one. So you'll have to research and know how to become a police officer. In my town, are you a civil service man? No. Different in Westwood, but in my town, we're state civil service. You have to take a state exam, entry-level exam. If you don't take that exam and get ranked on a list from scoring a 100 down to whatever the lowest grade is, I can't hire you. A town like Westwood has their own procedures. You got to know what those procedures are. So that's what's important. And organizations like this one, all our board members here created this internship program to open the eyes and inspire young students to understand what law enforcement, working with government is all about. So I think we're trying to do it, but we need more help. We need everybody to network together, and especially a young student like you to do a program on this. Diversity in law enforcement is such a great topic. So that's my comment, not really a question, but you did a great job, Sally. Yeah.